What's up, y'all? It's Ekin, and in today's video, we're going to be sampling AKIRA, one of my favorite movies and soundtracks that I own. This was actually a birthday gift to me from one of my friends. I think that they bought it at the Turntable Lab. I used to go there every week before their shop closed down during COVID, and I would always look at all the new records that they had, and they have a lot of Japanese pressings, but also a lot of great soundtracks. A lot of the Studio Ghibli stuff I would always see AKIRA. And I think I'd always just talked about really wanting this soundtrack, and I got it for my birthday a few years ago. There are a couple of reasons I think this soundtrack is really, really important. Of all of the big anime movies in the late 80s, early 90s, I think there are two that really stand out in the sci-fi realm. It's Ghost in the Shell and AKIRA, at least for American audiences. AKIRA is actually the soundtrack I don't like as much as Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell I think is one of the best soundtracks, period. But AKIRA definitely holds its own weight, and to this day kind of informs us how we think about sonics of the future in media. A couple standout tracks just off the bat: Battle Against Clown, which is one of the songs that plays while the iconic bike scene is happening. Battle of the Clowns comes in. It's this big experimental piece that utilizes like very deep breathing. And I think it was one of the cool, scary sounding pieces of the score. Doll's Polyphony is probably my favorite song. Doll's Polyphony plays when Tetsuo is in the hospital and starts hallucinating and seeing all the animatronic or like toys like come to life as he's hospitalized. And on side D, Requiem, the last track on this, is also really, really good. In 1988, this dropped. This was an album that took 6 months to make in preparation for the movie. Is really interesting about this album is the way that it embraces the studio as an instrument. They spend a lot of time talking about what went into creating this soundtrack, and a lot of it was studying other cultures, musics that are dying, styles that are dying, and the people who composed the album were already specialists in kind of like choral work, so you hear a lot of cool choir swells, interesting vocal treatment, and you hear a lot of crazy mallet playing, a lot of things that kind of break the standard of most soundtracks kind of just sounding like Western music. There's a lot of things incorporated in this album that definitely sounds different, and I think that kind of gives the illusion of future to many. A lot of these styles are a little bit more just like traditional music playing in cultures that aren't often recorded, and I think bringing all those to be recorded is a feat unto itself. But the ability that the composers had in applying different digital production techniques in creating this album is what really makes it stand out. So going into this video, I already have an idea of what this soundtrack sounds like. There are a couple things in my mind that I'm thinking about when I'm sampling here, and I think I really want to be able to capture some of the unbridled, chaotic energy of this project. I think there are a lot of things in it that sound very epic or very spiritual, and being able to kind of harness that and put it into the beats that I create is going to be my main goal. I'm going to try doing a couple of different styles of music, hopefully do something that's a little bit more in line with instrumental hip-hop, something that's a little bit more experimental, and then hopefully a dance track. The setup for today's video is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be similar to the one that I had for the Lord of the Rings video. I have my turntable where I'll put the record on there. I'm going to be sampling into my Electron Octatrack, and I have my SP404 Mark II for some editing, mixing purposes, but I also have a bunch of drums put onto that device so I can have easy access to the kind of drum sounds that I want for the beats that I make. It's a double disc, so it actually comes with two different discs with different art on each. You have the classic image. You also have the big nuclear explosion looking thing. And then on this side, we kind of have liner notes on what it was like to create this album. Unlike so much world music, this takes full advantage of the possibilities of studio technology. This comes in the form of increased reverberation, differential amplification, tape or digital sound processing, the creation of organic synthetic timbres, a bold use of stereo effects, and much more. Yamashiro seems completely unaffected by arguments as to whether electronic music could ever be quote-unquote spiritual. If anything, the depth and mystery is enhanced by the use of these techniques. In Japan, the notion of the quote-unquote technical demon impairing the quote-unquote spirituality of music doesn't seem to exist, though I could be wrong. So that's what the liner notes say here. I really love this album. I really like a lot of the sounds that are on here. Excited to sample it. Let's get into it. Oi, Kaneda! import this in. So this is from the first track. And that was side A. So we just got through side A and side B of the record. Let's take a look at this audio and try to find a loop. If not that, then chop it. So now we have a working loop right there. So I kind of like how that sounds. I'm going to go ahead and maybe bring in another one of the samples. Going to change it to a flex machine. Going to search in here. You can press function yes to have a preview of the sound. I'm going to go ahead and take that one in. And I think for this one, I'm going to try chopping it. So I went and chopped it up. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now I should have two different samples. I should have the one that I placed a trig for. And now I have a bunch of chops on track 6 to play on top of. So I'm going to go ahead and try to create a few patterns out of this. Let's hear both of them. So that's probably going to be my hip-hop attempt out of all these samples. I just found a loop that I really enjoyed from one of the more lingering moments of the album where you kind of hear city noise and a bunch of different things kind of creating music and creating rhythm in a way that isn't super structured in a traditional musical way. And then I also got the chants at the end of Doll's Polyphony, and I put those underneath, and then I put a drum break right over top of that. 3 elements, pretty simple. I like the groove there. I think it's going to be fun to version in the SP404. I'm going to save everything I have here. Let's get into another beat. I think I'm going to try making a dance song out of this next beat. So the loop seems to be pretty good at 104.5 BPM. I chose A3 because it was just a nice synth sound, so I'm going to go ahead and probably put that in chromatic mode and hopefully play some kind of harmonic chord progression on top of the rhythm that I have on track 5 here. So I'm going to I'm liking how this sounds. Definitely has a lot of the eerie and like dissonant qualities of the AKIRA soundtrack, and I kind of have it in a slow dance format, 104 BPM. I'm going to go ahead and bring in some one-shots to kind of emphasize the drum loop that's happening here, give it a little bit more oomph. So I think that's beat number 2. That one I used all 7 tracks. We have 3 samples on the right, track 5, 6, and 7, and then on the 4 left ones we have 4 different drum sounds. We have a break, 2 of the AKIRA samples, and then 4 random drum one-shots. This one is more of a dance song, and rather than use several patterns, I only used one pattern, but it is a 64-step sequence. So it is much longer than most of the patterns that I've done up to this point. We're in the third beat now, and we only have a few samples left from the 6 that I originally recorded from the first disc of the album. But let's see what we could do with that. I want to do something a little bit more experimental. I did a dance one. I did an instrumental hip-hop kind of groove. Now I kind of want to just do whatever, honestly. Let's see how it goes. So I kind of like how those two things are on top of each other. And those are the 3 beats that I think I'm going to be working with. So I made 3 beats out of the 6 samples that I found. Each of the tracks utilizes 2 of the 6 samples. I'm going to go ahead and print these arrangements to the SP404, add a little bit of compression, some EQing, and then I'll play all 3 beats, and this video will be a wrap. I think that concludes our video. This is me sampling AKIRA. If you liked anything that you saw, comment, subscribe, like, hit me up if you want samples, and I'll see y'all next time.